Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Learning Lab session. So to get started, we're going to be looking at bringing your teams together with Collaborate and checklists. So these are two tools that are available within the core Sage Intacct platform to bring internal communications, processes, and additional information into Sage Intacct and give you that single location to manage all of those elements. To start with, we're going to do some introductions, so we'll just move on to the next slide there. So I'm Claudia and I look after Sage Intacct Customer Success here at Acuity, and I'm also joined today by Fiona, who's one of our customer success coaches. We are going to do a quick bit of housekeeping before we kick off with the session. The question box in your toolbar will be live throughout the session, so please pop any questions you have in there as we go through. We will be having a Q&A session at the end, so we'll cover them off then. The session is also being recorded, so you will receive a copy by email and you can then revisit it and share it as you see fit. Okay, today's agenda. So Fiona's going to start by taking us through Collaborate. So we're going to be looking at the configuration, setting up groups, how you use Collaborate as your team, and adding it to dashboards as well. And then we'll finish the session looking at checklists. So we'll cover off what they are, when you can use them, and how you set them up. So I will hand over to Fiona to kick off and start looking at Collaborate functionality.
Thanks, Claudia. Yes, so I will be taking you through Collaborate today and showing you how to configure Collaborate, how to set up those groups. Collaborate is a really useful feature in Intacct. It's available for everybody within Intacct. It's part of the standard Sage Intacct core module. It allows you to engage in conversations with colleagues in real time, and the information that you engage, the communications you have with colleagues is stored at transactional level, so you can keep all of your communications through the collaboration center. Okay, first of all, let me just get you started. Let me just move my screens around so I can take you into Collaborate and show you around. Okay, let's just come here. Hopefully you can now see my Sage Intacct screen. Bear with me, sorry, I think that's just switched off. There we go, back to Intacct. Okay, so as I explained, Collaborate is a real-time messaging service that just allows you to share information and boost engagement with colleagues about financial transactions without losing track of the transaction in a bog of emails or Teams messages. It's part of the core Intacct finance system in Intacct, and therefore is available for everybody. Okay. Information and engagement on transactions is permanently documented against a transaction, and so therefore it's easily to identify why and when a document was amended or changed without needing to go and search back through a history of emails or rely on your memory. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to show you how to configure that. It's really simple. So by going up to company, we're going to go into subscriptions, and we're going to scroll right the way through until we find Intacct Collaborate, and you're going to switch that toggle over to a green. Once you've done that, you're going to hit configure. Okay, and that will take you into the Intacct Collaborate configuration. Today we're going to just configure so that we are setting up Collaborate for Intacct only. However, there is the option there to be able to integrate your Salesforce chatter and your Intacct Collaborate. There are a few additional steps to setting up that integration. So if you do have Salesforce and you want to integrate the two, then please do reach out to us and we can take you through those additional steps, because we're not going to get into that today. We're just going to do the Intacct side today. So first of all, we're going to click to say that we're setting up Collaborate for Intacct only. The company details will filter through from the main company setup. And then you also at the bottom have the option here to exclude users from using Collaborate. There may be some employee users that don't need to be included in communications, or CEOs, however, may also not need to be included in communications or need to engage. So you can exclude users from Collaborate within here. So once you've done that, hit save. You can also, just bear with me while that goes, you can also exclude users directly by going into the user record. So just going to use Claudia here for a moment. Go into company users, select your user that you wish to exclude, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you've got this option here to disable Intacct Collaborate for that user. Okay, just going to hit save that. Just going to hit cancel because I didn't actually make any changes. Okay. Once you've enabled Collaborate, you'll then need to refresh the system. So by logging out and logging back in, we'll refresh Intacct. So when you next log in, you'll get a message to say that you now have switched on Collaborate. You'll also notice that you've got Collaborate configured because you'll have a speech bubble up in your top right-hand corner. If you click on that speech bubble, it will show you the history of your most recent messages, and you can go into each of the messages, click on the message, and it will take you directly to that message against that transaction, where you can then engage with the message. You can attach documentation all from within Intacct without needing to go out of the system. But you also in here have the collaboration center. Let's just take a look in the collaboration center. Okay, in the collaboration center, you get a full feed. You can see there exactly what you've been engaging with other users. You can also look at feeds from conversations that you've had with people that you may follow. You can filter and look at feeds of messages that are just directly to yourself. Or you can look at the message feeds to the whole company. And that can all be done from within the collaboration center. Okay. You can also view all of the people that are included and able to communicate through Collaborate. You can also select specific users that you wish to follow. You can also in here create groups. So I've created a couple of groups already. I've created an AP team, and if I look at that team, I can see that we've got 4 members. I can look at the feed of conversation that's been happening within that group. I have the option to change roles, so I can set who's going to be the manager of the team now if it was no longer going to be me. And I can also add and remove more members. So if I just take you through how to create a new group, I'll just click on new group. You can give that group a name. So I'm just going to call this AR. You can set whether you want the group to be archived automatically if after 90 days there's been no communications, or if you don't want the group to be archived. And you can also set whether you want the group to be public or private. So if I just hit save there, that will get added. Okay, and as I'm the owner, as I created it, I'm now the owner of the team, of the group, sorry. And I'm also going to come in here and I'm going to add some members. So by clicking on add members, I can see a list of everyone who's available for Collaborate, and I can select who I want to add to my group. And they will also get a notification up in their speech bubble that they've been added to a group. I can also from here change the name of my group. So I can change in here. I can also change the archive settings, and I can also change whether it's public or private. And I can add a description about the group. Okay, so I'm just going to go back there. Okay, that's good. And also under files, I can also see in here what files have been uploaded by myself, what have been shared with me, and all files that have been uploaded in groups and conversations that I'm also included in. Okay. You can also, in the Collaboration Center, you can also update your preferences. So if you click on yourself, take me to my preferences. I can update my preferences, so I can turn on and off preferences such as emails that I'll receive when there's been a notification to myself or a comment on one of my posts. You'll also get notifications up in your speech bubble, but you can set whether you want to receive an email about them. You can also see that which groups you're belonging to and whether to receive notifications or emails on the groups. And oh dear, you can also upload a picture of yourself for your profile. Okay, so that's all done within the Collaboration Center. One thing you can also use Collaborate for is to communicate with your groups and other users directly in a document. So let's say we're going to look at an unpaid invoice and we want to find out why it's not yet paid. I'm going to go into the invoice, find the invoice. So let's go for this one. I can see there's 272 days overdue. So if I scroll to the bottom of the transaction, you have your collaboration feed, and I'm just going to pop a message in here and just try and get a bit of information about add a little bit of information that this invoice can now be paid. So if I'm sending the message to the team and start with the first letter of the team, it will list, sorry, the first two, it will list all of the teams beginning with that letter. If I wanted directly to a person, I'd start with the first letter of the name, and then I can pick from the list of names that appear. AP. Okay. So if I share that, now everybody in the AP team is going to receive a notification via an email or in their notification center, the collab notification center, that there's been a message on this transaction, and they'll be able to use the drop-down list to go directly to the message, and that'll take them directly to the transaction, sorry. Okay, I'm just going to come up there. Okay. Any replies on that transaction, I will then get a notification in my collaboration center or up on my notifications up here that there's been a reply on that transaction, and I can just click on the message and go directly to it. Against transactions, you can also attach files and links. These are then permanently stored against the transaction, meaning it's really easy to locate documents and information on why something's happened, or why a transaction was held, or the supplier has not yet been approved. For example, if I go to a supplier, I'll show you how to attach a document. I'm going to find one that's not yet been approved. I'm going to go into here. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to send a message to Cloud saying that this supplier can now be approved. Can now be approved the attachment. So Claudia will now get a notification that there's a note on this supplier, and I'm also going to attach a file. So I can choose a file. I'm just going to attach a letter from Corrie advising that it can also, no need to save here, you can just come out, done, and that will be stored against the transaction. Okay, so really simple and easy to use, but a great way just to keep all communications in one place without having to go outside of the system, search through emails and messages. And finally, the last thing I'm going to show you is how your Collaborate feed can also be added to a dashboard. So if you're someone who regularly views dashboards and you wanted to keep all of information in one place, to add the collaboration feed to your dashboard, it's really simple. We go into dashboards, find the dashboard you want to add it to, and then you're going to use this plus option up here. You can see that pop up. And we're going to select from there the collaboration feed, hit save. And that will now get added to your dashboard. Yeah, so really useful and easy to use feature that's available for everybody in Intacct. Really easy to configure. If you are interested in getting this set up and you would like some assistance with configuring Collaborate, then please do reach out and ask us. We'd be more than happy to help you. Great, thanks. I'm going to pass you back to Claudia now. Thank you.
Brilliant. So let's just quickly switch screens over. So bear with us for a second. There we go. So hopefully you can now see my screen. So I'm going to cover off checklist functionality for you now. So we're going to look at what they are, when you can use them, and also look back at them within the system and how you set those up and what elements make up checklists within Sage Intacct. So checklists are available as standard in Sage Intacct, and they exist in the company application. So anyone with a Sage Intacct user can log in and use these and have them available as long as they are configured and turned on and you have the right permissions set up for those. Really what they're there for is to help you manage processes consistently across your organization. They give really clear visibility of processes used, the steps and specific processes that you've got in place. They really do exactly what they say. It is a checklist that allows you to assign tasks out to users within Sage Intacct, gives you clear responsibilities so that you can see who's assigned to what and what the due date of those tasks are, and just allows you to keep track of progress and understand how your team are getting on, and just keep that running list nice and visible and available within the system. The difference is really around not having these outside the system. So not having to use a separate spreadsheet or a separate tool that you use within your business to keep all this data, and actually having all of that stored internal within Sage Intacct. So it also stores any documentation that you might tag against it and any further information within the system. Checklists can also be added to dashboards in a similar way to Collaborate. So you can have it set up on your dashboard as you log in the morning. So if you're a team leader, you can see how progress is going against all of those tasks within the checklist. But equally, if you're assigned to those tasks, you can have a look at what's due and what you've got assigned to yourself to start working on for that day. So nice and easy to add into a dashboard and gives you clear visibility then when you're using those. Really easy to set up as well. So commonly used for things like month end, quarter end, year end close. So any of those non-financial tasks and processes. Equally, other businesses use them for things like audit and compliance processes, or really any specific scenarios where you have a checklist that you work through that you want to track and give visibility to within the system. Okay, so I'm going to take you now into Sage Intacct so we can have a look at it within the system. We just move over to our Intacct instance over here. So there is a little bit of setup to do, so we'll walk through that. Some of the setup's not necessarily required, but is really useful to have in place to help you monitor your checklists and assignments and just manage those and categorize them clearly. So if we go into our applications and into companies, this is where checklists sit. And if we look into the setup tab here, down to the bottom right, we have all of our checklist setup options down here. So we're first going to look at checklist options, and checklist options give you the option to select who can update checklists and who can update the assignments against those checklists, so those tasks that we log against them. And to do this, we're just going to click edit, and that's going to give us edit functionality and give us some options to select who we want to be able to update these two elements, whether that's just the checklist owners or creators, or whether that's any user with permissions to update these checklists. So have a look at those, select which ones apply to your business, and then we just click save. And any permissions can be set against your users and roles for checklists at a more granular level as well, if you want to have a look at those. So now we're going to start with the setup side. So there's two elements that we're going to look at. We're going to look at categorization and statuses, and we're going to look at those against both checklists, so the top level, and then a more second level, which is the assignments, so those tasks that are assigned to those checklists. So if we just go into the checklist categories first of all, these are customizable lists and completely down to you as to what you want setting up. And effectively, all these categories just give you that option to report on or analyze the type of checklist it is. So when you're looking at it, you can filter and say, I just want to see all of my month-end or year-end checklists, or I want to see all of my audit prep checklists. And you can set these up as you go or up front. It's really up to you. Really straightforward. You just click add, type in your category name and save, and that will add it to your list and make it available to assign to a checklist. In a really similar way, we're going to do the same with the checklist status. So a checklist status just gives us insight into whether it's started, whether it's an in progress checklist, for example, or it's a complete checklist. You can add whatever statuses you like in here. Exactly the same process as categories by adding one here, populating the name and saving it, so it adds it to this list. We're now going to go down the level and have a look at assignments and do exactly the same thing for our assignments. So assignment categories, first of all, and again, these are just effectively labels to categorize things and give you a bit of an overview so you can group your assignments together. So at the moment in the system, I've just got manager and staff level categories set up for assignments. But for example, if you had lots of different teams inputting into a checklist, maybe you'd want to set some categories per team so that you could group them per team. Click add your category, nice and straightforward. Final part of setup is doing it on the statuses for your assignments, and again, exactly the same process. These statuses is what your assignees, the people that are completing the tasks, are going to use to indicate how far they've got through that task. So again, up to you to the level of granularity that you want to give with these statuses, and this can be updated and amended as you go through. But for example, we've got in here, not started, in progress, needs assistance. So maybe they need assistance with the task and they want to be able to indicate that on the checklist. Completed, whatever you want to have in here to give your statuses, you can add in nice and straightforward again by going add and typing in the status name there. So that's all you really need to do from a setup perspective. And we can now go in and have a look at how we create a checklist. So back into the company application, but this time we're going to look at the All tab here, and we're going to click into checklists. So this is going to give you a list of all your checklists that you've got set up and the ability to add new ones. So if we want to add a new one, we just click add here and then we populate it. But we're going to look at an existing example to show you this in a minute. So we can add a new one from here. We could also import one from Excel, which is quite a good route if you're doing something like a monthly checklist to be able to create the next month nice and easily. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. If we go into this top one and edit the September 24 month end close, we're going to use this one as an example to demonstrate what you'd set up and how you would then go about using the checklist. So the top section, this header section here, is where you're going to start to populate your header information. The checklist category that we set up earlier can be selected. So we're using month end close in this one. And also when you create them, you're probably going to create them as not started, but this one has been started, so I'm just going to leave that as in progress, but you can add your status there, add it in your checklist name. Your checklist owner will be pre-populated as you yourself as the creator, but you can override this and change this and make somebody else the checklist owner if you're creating it on behalf of somebody and they want to get the notifications. Then you're going to add your checklist description and make sure it is an active checklist. Then we're going to move into these assignments. So this is where you're going to start setting your tasks up. And again, this is a kind of free text field for you to populate. So you're not kind of selecting anything or presetting anything in advance. You can do it as you go through. When we click in, we can set our assignment name. So keep this nice and short and straightforward so it's easy to view. And then you can add all of your checklist assignment detail description within this field here. So add that in as well for each of your tasks and add those details descriptions in as well to make it nice and easy for whoever you're assigning it to know what they need to do. Then you're going to set your start date and your due date, and then allocate an assignee. So this is based on your Intacct contacts, so you can select who you're assigning it to. Let me just move that back down. Once you've assigned it and saved the checklist, the person that you've assigned it to will receive a notification email to say that a task has been assigned to them and what the due date is. They just need to double check in a similar way to we did in Collaborate that they have within their user preferences, they have email notifications for checklists switched on. So that's the core setup of the checklist. And then once it has been saved and we start the checklist and you've got dates that are coming up, the person that has been assigned to that task can start to update it and give you insight into how they're progressing through their tasks. So once we've got this assignment status here. And what we can do is we just, let's just do it by start date. Let's filter that there. So what we can do now is we can look at editing progress against these. So we can see in this first line here, this has already been completed by somebody. So the person that's assigned to the task can go in and select how far they're through and update the status for you. Then they can update the percent complete. You don't have to update this field, but you might want that little bit more insight into how far through once it's started they are. If they have completed the task, then they can put their actual end date in. And this is quite useful for future reference to be able to analyze what tasks might be getting completed earlier than you expect or later than you expect, then you can adjust your timelines for future checklists and future months as well. We have the option to add any attachments in here. So here I've just got the bank rec report attached for future reference, and then add any comments in here as well. Again, as we go through each of these, they can select how far they're through and keep working through each line. At the bottom here, we also have Collaborate, so this pulls through quite nicely. You can add further attachments and details here. You could also tag somebody to ask a specific question, and then it's all stored against this checklist. So keeping it nice and together and easy and flowing. Once we have completed that and saved it, I'm just going to come out of there now. We have an extra element that we can add into our checklist, which are called an assignment constraint. So a constraint is effectively a restriction on an assignment based on another assignment. These are based on start dates and due dates. So for example, you might set a constraint on, say, task 2, that you cannot start task 2 until task 1 is complete. And these are all managed within the assignments list. So if we go into company all and assignments, we're going to view our assignments list. So this list has been filtered, but this will give you all of your assignments that are set up against checklists. I filtered this one to show our monthly closing checklist assignment, so we can see everything that we've just set up on that checklist coming up on here. If we go into one of these and edit it, you'll see this bottom section, which is the constraints on the assignment. So again, really easy to set up and straightforward. We're going to have a look at the constraint type. So is this starting on or after or finished by? So we're going to say this assignment can start on or after the due date of the assignment before, so the first assignment, just so that gives you a bit more control over when they start. And that can be set up at assignment level, but we can then come out of that. So if we just save that, that's our constraint set up on that assignment. These assignment lists are quite useful for assignees that are completing tasks, and you can create their own views, new views on this list to add any fields they want to show and to filter it. So you might want to filter it based on any tasks assigned to yourself that are not completed in order of due date. So it's nice and easy for you to come in and have a quick look at what's due and what you need to start working on. If we go back into the checklist list, one thing we do need to think about is maintaining these lists. So if you are working on a month-end checklist, you're going to need a new checklist for every month-end. We've got a couple of options to do that. So we can either go into an existing checklist and duplicate it. That's going to carry everything through. So we're going to have to just do a bit of cleanup and remove some of this information that's been populated, set all of our assignment statuses to not started, and update all of our start and due dates, and then we can save that as a new checklist. Equally, you could set up your first month-end checklist as a template, and then all you're having to do is duplicate that template and update the dates rather than having to clear it out. Just minimizes some of that cleanup that you have to do every month before you create the next month's checklist. The easiest way I think of doing this is to do an import and to manage it within Excel. So have a template in Excel, use a formula to update your dates, and you're just importing that either at kind of the beginning of the year, creating all of your months nice and early, or as you go through, depending on your preference. The final thing we're quickly going to look at is adding these to a dashboard. So if we go into our dashboards, I have created here a very quick month-end dashboard, which you can absolutely add lots more to. We've added the checklist in here so we can see what the assignments are, who they're assigned to, what the due date is, and what status they are, nice and easily. We can also add in, as Fiona mentioned, this collaborate feed here, so we can see anything that's been updated. And if we create a group for our month-end checklist or for month-end process, for example, then we could just add the feed for that group and see anything that's related to the month-end process. I've also added into here the close through summary. So this is just showing us where the books are closed through to per ledger, per entity. But you could also link any reports that you're running as part of this month-end process, for example. You could even link any third-party systems that you might be using alongside this process, whether that's linking to your banking portal or any other systems that you use that you just might want to have a quick link to, so you can use this dashboard as kind of your starting point and jump into those areas that you might need to jump into. And that's pretty much it from a setup perspective. It's nice and easy, really straightforward to get going, low risk in terms of get it set up, start using it, see how it works for you. And yeah, make the most of these kind of collaboration tools that are available to you to start bringing more into Intacct and make your processing a bit easier and a bit more visible to your wider team as well. So we're going to pop into questions now. So let me just go back into our PowerPoint quickly and just see if we have any questions to look at. Okay, I can't see anything in there at the moment. So we will wrap up, and you can obviously pop us any questions later on if you have any, or if you start to set up either Collaborate or Checklist, do give us a shout if you need any help. I'm happy to work through it with you. Fiona, we'll just wrap up onto the last slide, hopefully.
Thanks, Claudia. Yeah. So as Claudia mentioned at the start, you will receive a copy of today's session. You'll receive a copy of the recording. It'll be emailed out to you. If you do have any feedback or suggestions for future topics, then please do get in touch and let us know. We'd be great. Would gratefully receive any suggestions you have. My email address is on the screen now, so please just drop me an email. And our next Learning Lab will be on the 3rd of October, and we will be covering building custom reports. Thank you all again for joining. We hope you found today's session useful, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Learning Lab. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.